Kia ora and welcome to CIO Leadership Live. I'm your host, Kathy O'Sullivan, the editor for CIO New Zealand, and I'm delighted to welcome my guest today, Roxanne Salton, who's the Chief Digital Officer at Southern Cross Healthcare Society. Hello, Roxanne. How's 2023 for you so far?
Oh my God, I can't believe we're already today, the 23rd today? It's gone really, really fast, but it's good.
I know.
I'm really loving the weather at the moment is really good, and I've had an excellent break, so thank you.
Awesome. Well, great to have you on CIO Leadership Live today. And to start us off, can you tell us a little bit more about your role and what your team at Southern Cross Health Society does?
Fabulous. Well, yes, so my role pretty much looking after technology and making sure that all of our systems and all of our applications and all of our business is up and running and ensuring that we're serving our members, which is the most important part for us. And so my team really looks after the day-to-day running of technology and ensuring that also we're delivering to all of our strategic objectives that we've laid out within our 5-year plan. So big responsibility, but fantastic job.
Yeah, it's a big role. And you've not come from a traditional technology background, but you obviously have had a lot of experience of transformation. So can you talk us through, your approach to transformation? It's not an easy thing to do. So how has it taken shape in your own career?
Well, transformation is an interesting word, first and foremost. I always sort of pause a little bit on that word because transformation can come in many shapes and forms. And, sometimes a word like digital or transformation can mean many things to many people. So for me, transformation is about what are the activities that you need to make sure that your business is shaped for the future. And so transformation is a bit of a word that over the years I don't like really using because it means that it feels like there's an end to it. But in actual fact, when you work in technology, and especially in digital, and I've been in digital for 20 odd years, it never really ends. It's a constant evolution. So for me, transformation is more evolution. Transformation is more the activities for sustaining that evolution over time. Technology doesn't stand still, and therefore nor should your activities. So you constantly need to evolve. But for me, it's more around digitization. So what have we been doing in businesses in the last 10, 15 years to move us to a digital future, a data-driven future? And therefore those activity or transformation, which could be actually down to your technology, to your people, ways of working, or your processes that you've been doing. So do we need to do the things that we're doing today, and do they need to change in order to sustain where we want to go? So really for me, transformation has been a journey of many things over the time. And like you said, I've not always been in technology. So I've come from sales, I've come from product management, I've come from innovation and disruption. So transformation has had a role in all of these roles, including my strategy when I was at the bank, and now actually looking at the technology itself. So I've had many faces to transformation, and it's never the same, and it continuously evolves. So quite a big word.
Absolutely. And you mentioned there that, transformation is a journey. So when you walk back from that end product of transformation, whether it is, transforming your ways of working or introducing a new system, what do you think are some of the key steps CIOs must take along the way? Is there ever like a starting point or something that will kick off that transformation?
Look, I think every transformation and every journey seems to have a very similar outcome, but a very different roadmap to get to, right? And it depends on the business you're in. It depends on the industry you're at. It depends on the maturity. But what I've learned is there's some key criteria that are always true for CIOs, but also for any executive group. And that's ensuring that we're all on the same page, right? So the job of transformation is never the job of just a CIO. I can tell you that right now. If that's the case in your business, you will fail at it. It is not the job of that person or this person, and they'll take care of it. It's got to be an aligned executive group with a CEO that actually is driving that agenda, because actually technology now sits on every single level of the business. It's not just something that the IT department does. So that's really, really critical. And I think, I've been in businesses where we had the coalition of the willing. We only had a few. And some businesses they had none. And I've got the privilege of being in a business that all of us understand the value of the transformation. So As a CIO, for me, it's really important that I help translate my area into plans that all of my colleagues understand, being a good storyteller, but also challenging some of our business decisions, right? Because we have a plan in terms of our members and what we need to achieve. But to achieve that plan, it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of investment, and it takes a lot of good decision making. And that means that the information we put on the table has to be really clear, and it has to be challenging. It's got to be uncomfortable. And especially when it comes to IT, because IT has, lots of legacy, or like we like to say, history, and some of it is good, some of it needs to change. And that means that there's some serious decisions that we need to make. And as a CIO, I think one of the key things that we need to make sure of is that we consolidate, we simplify, and we put forward what is needed at this period, but also understanding that whatever decision we make is going to be affecting us for the next few years to come. This is not a tactical area. This is a very strategic area. And as we all know, the investment can be great, not only in money, but in time and in your capacity. And, there's a long leeway before you start seeing the results. So it's really, really important that the CIO really, really plays that role of translation and storytelling, and not be afraid to look at the business side of the equation as well as the technology side of the equation. So, that's for me what I think is really, really critical as a CIO.
Absolutely, and that alignment piece especially. So you mentioned there a legacy, and legacy systems can be, a massive challenge in any business. Are there any other kind of common roadblocks within transformation that you think, a CIO setting out on that journey needs to be really mindful of at the start on how to avoid them if possible? Or are there any kind of common roadblocks that you can think of when you are setting about a transformation?
Do you know, legacy is not a bad thing. I think legacy is only bad when you don't address it and when you don't constantly keep on top of it. I think the biggest mistake we've ever done, is not actually having the voice of technology heard louder. I think, every technology in its own day is fantastic. But over time, like anything, technology sort of erodes, and you need to either keep up with it or you need to challenge it and then take it out. And as you know, most companies, we're not good at taking out anything. So, at some point you pile up. But certainly the systems is something that you need to be very mindful of. And it's not a bad thing. It's just something that you need to make sure that within your investment portfolio, you always have a good balance, right? So what's going to really be in your way is the amount of technology you put in and not questioning why. Why do we need this? What is it going to bring to your business? Is it aligned to our business objective? 2 is, what's the price or the impact of not doing anything? Can we kick that can one more year? Because it's okay. We can, but we need to understand quite seriously, what does that mean? And so certainly, if we do make the investment, that we be flexible in actually adapting as we go. So not lock ourselves into a place where we can't get out of. But we said this and we can't change. Not changing is actually your biggest stick in your wheel. So I think as CIOs, the challenges are very much making sure that we surface the ugly as well as the beautiful, and it's okay to accept that we're not doing anything about it because we understand the impacts of it, and also that we might have bigger fish to fry at this point. But let's not forget, let's not put it to the side and not talk about it again, or not have the courage to bring it up. I think that's going to be the biggest roadblock to CIOs, I think, going forward, because we are at a point where we have technologies that we've had for 20 odd years. And at some point, we need to readdress them. Some of it's still good, by the way. Not all of it is bad. Some of it is still very robust. Things were well made then. But is it good for the next 20 years? And so looking in advance and making sure that it is. And if it's not, it's a big, ugly monster. Let's tackle it. We don't have to bite it all in one go. But the sooner we address it, the more we're going to get through it eventually. So I think these are just roadblocks. The rest is, I'd say to you, collaboration with the business. It's really important you talk to the business and understand where the business is going and what's the roadmap, and ensuring that the business doesn't run away with just the technology side, but understanding what's their business requirement. And that's always been the big roadblock, and saying, oh, I've seen this, or this vendor sold me that. And so it's the perfect thing. It's going to make coffee. It's going to be perfect. And but hang on a second. So how does that look like in operation? Have we understood the integration of it? Does it all make sense when we do the full 360 of it? Is it safe? Is it secure? Does it work? And what else are we not going to do if we're doing this? And are we comfortable with the full story here? Sometimes it's much easier to go with a little shiny diamond, but in actual fact, you need to look at the thing in its full context to go, is this a good business decision? And if it's a good business decision, then it makes sense for all of us to get into it.
Absolutely. And I guess that brings it back again to your alignment piece and that clarity of what you actually want to achieve. So you mentioned earlier, transformation is, just evolving. It's an ongoing thing. So your approach to transformation then, do you ever tackle it as a project with a deadline and milestones and celebrating the wins, or is it just, you just keep going and keep going? What's been your approach?
It's a bit of a mix of both, I'd say. So first of all, for instance, at Southern Cross, we have a very clear 5-year plan. We know where we want to be as a business, and we know what we want to deliver for our members. And so when we look at the 5-year plan, you go, okay, well, in 5 years' time, I can't tell you what technology is going to look like, because it's really hard to project anything in 5 years in technology days. But I sort of know what's going to happen for the next 12 to 24 months, right? Because I have a view of what's happening now. What do I need to address today? What are my cybersecurity issues? What are my, other risks that I need to be factoring? What is the legislation that's coming through? So we sort of have a plan or a roadmap of the things we already know of. And we also have a plan of what we don't know, what could be or could not be, but directionally it's correct. So I think the combination of a bit of both. So you have to be agile in what you're doing today in your deliveries for the next 12 to 24 months, because the marketplace changes very quickly. So does technology. But you also have a direction that needs to be 5 years down the track. So, you should know what you don't have, what you don't need, and what you're going to need to address between the two. So you need a good strategy to understand that. And that's probably a much more long-term approach. So I think in that sense, yes, some stuff has a date. Some stuff we already know will be end of life. But some other things, we're just going to go as an agile way. We're going to do a proof of concept. We're going to try it out. We're going to push the boat out. And some other places, we're going to be okay to say, no, we don't have an answer for this one, but we're going to keep looking. So I think the combo of that reassures not only your peers, but also your board, that you don't have to have an answer for everything, but you need to be aware of the problem or the challenge and continuously look for a solution. But I steer away from the word project, because I think that's quite old terminology. But I do think that sometimes waterfall is a good way of looking at your strategy and making sure that certain things need to happen. But agile should be the way you execute, and always be ready to change direction or change, tack. But your direction and your North Star should be the same. And for us, it's about, what do we want to give our members? How do we want our members to be in 5 years? Where's our promise to them? And therefore, what will need to change underlying to reach that?
So you mentioned there earlier the importance of collaboration. So tell us, as Chief Digital Officer for Southern Cross Health Society, how do you collaborate with your peers on the exec and the wider organization?
So we have a multiple of ways that we collaborate, but the biggest one is probably the start of the year when we prepare our plans for the year. So what we do is we meet up, my leadership team with their leadership team, right? And we meet up and we understand where we're at with the business, how much did we achieve from our current financial year and our plans that we wanted to reach, and what needs to be different for the next 12 to 24 months or 12 to 18 months, because as far as you can go. And we make sure that we understand where they're trying to get to. We understand where we're at and what needs to change or what needs to remain the same. And then we bring those choices. So we do this with every single department. And then we bring that back as a leadership team. And then we put it all together. And then we make some very difficult decisions. They're not easy decisions. They're not made on the first go. But they're there to really challenge each other around some of the things that we call the must-dos, that we really have no choice, the things that should be done, and the nice-to-haves, right? And then we give ourselves some leeway for the changes throughout the year. So we have a really good, robust conversation over a few days, and we come down to a portion of what we're comfortable with. What are the things we might address a bit later on? And what are the things that we actually are going to touch this year? And we're going to push it out for another year. knowingly that we already have a 3-year horizon. So we know that whatever we push pulls up for the year after, and we're going to have this conversation again. So, we do it in a view that we have a vision to the future. So we're not just throwing stuff out for the sake of it. And because it's like a boomerang, it will come back anyways. But we also understand the capacity that what we've got, right? So we can't load our people with more than what we can actually deliver. So we try to do that. And then obviously we keep connecting with each other on a quarterly basis through quarterly planning, which is our agile ways of working, and constant conversation. Things change. And if they change, then how do we solve it as a team? These are the sort of way that really we engage with each other.
Now, you mentioned earlier that the role of technology, it is across every part of the organization. How do you think the role of the CIO has changed since the pandemic? It's really brought it into sharp focus in a lot of businesses. Do you think it's changed the role of CIO?
It's a really good question. And I was thinking about that question before, and I thought, oh, wow, that is a really good question. And I was trying to think about all the different industries I worked in. I worked in publishing, and I worked in, which wasn't digital at all. And digital sort of really changed the business. And I worked in telco, and I worked in banking, and I worked in energy, and now in insurance. And I think of, what if I was at those places during the pandemic? Well, how would that look different than what we are at Southern Cross? And the reason why is because at Southern Cross, we were already very digital. And so the pandemic for us has not made any major changes by the fact that we work now remotely on some cases, and that we have a more flexi workforce. That's probably the only change for us. We were already very digital, so we just continued on growing our digital agenda. But I guess for people that weren't very digital, or were half digital, if you want, or hadn't completely converted, the pandemic would have absolutely accentuated the importance of digitization. Because if you were still doing some paperwork, having to be working remotely would have definitely created some challenges that hopefully companies would have addressed or are in the midst of addressing now. But certainly not a challenge that we had at Southern Cross, which is great, because we've done some great investment over the years. And it's probably and I say this all the time, one of the most digital company I've ever worked for. But came in with some assumptions that insurance would not be from previous experiences, and I was gladly surprised that I was very wrong on that.
That's
so for
great
me,
to hear.
Yeah, so for me, not much. Mostly the way we work is what's changed, but again, it gives people the flexibility to work differently, and the productivity is certainly not faltered on that. And we've got high engagement, highly productive workforce. So yeah, I think it's created different opportunities for people. But that's as far as, yeah.
Just on that, Rox, you mentioned there, you've a highly productive workforce. So how do you create that internal culture? How do you really get people to be, driven, but also ensure that they're meeting their personal and professional goals at work?
I've got this motto: you play hard, work hard. And it's very difficult when we're competing with each other in New Zealand right now on talent, right? I mean, we've all got the same issues. We all have, a reduced workforce because we can't find people. Salaries have been competitive, even more so than we'd like. We've had lots of benefits that we've all added to our businesses to compete for talent. So at one point you go, well, what differentiates us? We all have very big investment in our leadership, making sure that people are really feeling empowered. And it's sort of, you start looking for what's the difference between us and all the other great companies that are trying to get the same talent. And sometimes I think it just comes down to the difference of making your workplace a little bit more fun, a little bit more inviting, and sometimes I think great leadership is there, and everybody can have great leadership, but a good sense of diversity, a great sense of recognition of different cultures, and having fun. I think sometimes we've just forgotten with the pandemic, it was so serious But each year I have DP's Got Talent, and people in technology have immense amount of creative juices, and it's amazing each year how much fun we try to get in terms of showing off your talent, having a bit of a laugh, making some challenges internally for people to participate in different activities. Our Christmas party was amazing at Southern Cross because we had also music from every single continent to recognize everybody's culture. And so, the way we danced, we had a bit of Bollywood, we had, all sorts of places. It was just amazing. And I think that creates a sense that everybody feels like they're part of it. They can be themselves and they're not trying to fit a mold. We have such a diverse group in Southern Cross, especially in IT, that people can feel that they can see themselves and they feel identified. I mean, that's probably one of the key things, I think, for culture. The rest is, we've got great plans, we've got clear directions, we have great leaders. Yes, we've got great benefits. We're very competitive, and we work for a non-profit for our membership. So everything we do is about our members, and everything that we reinvest is to make our membership better. And ultimately, help people live healthier lives longer. So I think the purpose is there for us. I mean, I can't speak on behalf of other businesses, but I certainly know that it's made people maybe sometimes leave and come back and say, you know what, maybe I was paid something a bit more over there, but it's got nothing on the culture. So, they come back, and that's our greatest response in saying, well, it's like a family. So, go and chase opportunities. We can't stop you, but there's always a place for you. And recruiting good talent, making sure we invest in good talent, and we grow people internally and provide opportunity consistently for people to move in different areas without being so hard on skills, because you can learn skills. If you've got the attitude, skills is easy to learn. And we've moved people from our call center into technology, from network to security. I mean, everybody's got an opportunity to learn and to try different things. And so we've got great stories internally. And I guess, people say that. So, I don't know. That's probably the secret sauce, I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it has been proven that, the more diverse your team is, the better performing it is. Now, you're one of very few women CIOs or CDOs in New Zealand. Why do you think, not as many women are attracted to IT as men? And what do you think are some of the practical things that can be done to get more women into IT and hopefully into that C-level as well?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, Catherine. I think we gathered, we have a small group of female CIOs, and we always get together, and we did that before Christmas. And it's always a big question for me why we lose. We have a lot of, I look at my group, and I've got a fantastic amount of women. In fact, I think we had a stat last year. Of course, we have a lot of changes at the moment in IT, but at one point we had 55% of our testers were all females. We've got a really strong female and diverse presence. But when I see the echelons as when they move up to the top level job, I think we lose a lot of women at that level. And I'm not sure why women are just disconnected before they get up, because I don't think there's any lack of women entering the marketplace. In fact, we have lots of them. Why they don't pursue higher, I'm not too sure. Maybe because, again, we are a small minority. I know that employers are looking for females. And I think one of the key things that I've been starting to think about is maybe we're not visible enough. I get calls sometimes and they're looking for a female. And I think, well, look at the top 50 CIOs. But when I look at the list, there's still not a lot of us, we still haven't achieved that balance, not only from a gender perspective, but from diversity perspective. So I guess there's a lot of still more work to be done. And I'm not sure that sorry, I've got to fly there. I'm not sure that, we're doing as much as we need to bring more up. I don't know that there's something specific blocking women from coming up. I don't think anymore, but I'm not sure we're doing enough to lift them up. And And that's probably something we need to discuss a lot more of. It feels like we've lost a few in the last 6 months. And I'm hoping that we're going to see that coming back and a few more coming in. But yeah, it is a problem. And I think we need more of, more representation and more cultures as well.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to someone who is aspiring to, take that next step in their leadership and possibly become a CDO or CIO? What advice would you give them, regardless of their gender or their background?
First of all, love technology, love technology, love people. We need a lot more people persons as well, not just technologists. I think that's sort of limited a whole lot of opportunities in the past. I'm a perfect example. And every time I speak about this, I do get a lot of females and a lot of people approaching me because I don't come from technology. And so for them, I'm a perfect example of someone who has shifted from the business into technology, that it is absolutely doable. And that we've had great successes. I've been here for 3 years. We've got a fantastic team, high engagement. We're making great strides. So, I didn't need to have come up the technology, but I needed to be a great leader and understand and be passionate about technology, and surround myself with very strong people that complement my skill set. And I think in any job, whether you take technology on or any other department that you may not have come from, good leaders will know how to build up a team to actually complement and bring all of that skill and expertise, so that when we tackle a problem together, we've got everything we need in the room to do it with. So it's not about me. I should be the dumbest person in the room, which frankly, I felt like I was, because when I started, I thought, whoa, this is very different. I always wonder, oh my God, they're actually going to give me a shot at this. But I knew in my own self that as a leader, I could do it. I had worked alongside technology all my career. I knew how they worked, and I knew that I was a good complement to those skill sets, albeit very opposite, right? Extrovert, non-technology. But actually, it was a perfect mix, because together we can create the story we need to create, and we can actually solve the problems we need to create, because I represent somewhat the business, and technology represents really the technology. So I'd say to anybody, there is opportunity for anyone to step into this role, and I'd say that a lot of it is grow that confidence and talk to people, continue doing everything that you're doing in terms of leadership, in terms of investment in yourself, leading people, learning, being curious, being innovative. For me, what's driven me is, oh my God, I can now control the innovation and the technology around it. And then we had the pandemic. So that's what I'm expecting them going to be doing a lot more this year. So my advice is, technology is not a scary place. It's actually a place that is really fun. It moves a lot. If you've got great leadership skills, you have curiosity, you like logical things, technology is definitely a place to be. And it doesn't mean that you have to have been in technology all your career, which I've been told a few times, you haven't done hardware or software, or you haven't coded. And I thought, oh, well, okay, I can't be in technology. I never even could have imagined myself to run a technology department. But I had one great leader who said, absolutely you can, and gave me an opportunity, and wow, changed everything. So as leaders, we need to give others the opportunity, but also reinforce their confidence that they're absolutely capable in doing it. It's just like any other teams you lead, you learn, you make mistakes, and you put plans together, put a strategy, and trust that things will work. And hire well. Always hire well. Best advice I can give: get good talent. They will make it easy.
Absolutely. And so we're heading into a busy year ahead, possibly facing a recession, if the economists are anything to go by. and possibly a change of government. We've got an election towards the end of the year. So can you tell us what's important to you in the months ahead as we head into some headwinds?
Well, first of all, never forget the past. So our people got really burnt last year. I think most New Zealanders, and I think globally, it was a tough last few years. Feels like this year we're starting afresh and back to some form of normality. But we can't forget that we still have a lot on our plates, and people are fresh now, but it doesn't mean we have to suck all the energy that they've managed to gain during the holidays. So stability and prioritization is going to be key for me this year. It's just making sure that, again, we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. We have a lot of demand for digital and technology again. That's never going to go away. It was there prior to the pandemic. It will be there well behind. We still have issues in regards to job fulfillment. So with vacancies and not having enough workforce. So we need to be mindful of that, because that puts pressure on our people to basically fill the gaps, and costs are very high. And I think this year is really a year, like you said, there's a lot of uncertainty, what we call VUCA, so I'd say that this year, let's take it a day at a time. Let's ease our way into normality, albeit there might be a recession, might not. I think it's hard to predict exactly where we're going to all wind up in the next few months. So think more short term with a long term view. At this point, I'd say ease your way into it. And I think every quarter we'll get a better view of what the next quarter looks like. But I would certainly not make a projection for the rest of the year at this point, because I think it's everything is up in the air at the moment. So all we can do as people leader and as is give more certainty and stability to our teams in a place where there's a lot of uncertainty. So let's work on the things we can control, what we call control the controllables, and let's let the rest sort of flow into it and give ourselves time and energy to make sure we can tackle any changes or any tough parts. I think it's going to be tough on people personally this year, and it's going to be probably tough on businesses and the economy. So it's already started the year with, the Prime Minister resigning and so forth. So I just think, already we're starting to see that. If we feed into that, we feed into our people feeling unstable. So I think let's take it a day at a time. Certainly what I've told my team last week, one day at a time. Let's have a look. Let's stick to our plans, to what we can control, the capacity we've got today. And let's give ourselves some energy to tackle what else could come on top. But let's make sure that we keep it tight and focus. And I think that's really how we're going to navigate this year.
That's a great place to leave it, and great advice, I think, for everyone. Roxanne Salton, thank you so much for your time today.